This is a HeadGum podcast.
All right, folks, we are back with episode 5 and 6 of the Bachelorette podcast. Well, we're recapping episode 5 and 6 of the Bachelorette. Let me start that again. All right, guys, we are back with episode 5 of the Blacklorette podcast. On this episode, we're going to recap episodes 5 and 6 from Rachel's turn on the Bachelorette. God, I can't say that. Like, Blacklorette is like a serious word that you got to get through if you want to do this. But I'm here. I'm with my co-host Joy. How you feeling tonight, Miss Joy?
I'm feeling good. We're getting closer and closer to being done with this fuck ass show. I'm feeling good. We're nearing the end, so I'm a happy camper right now.
I'm happy too. Like, I don't want the times to end, but I kind of want to know who's going to be the next Bachelor, and I definitely want to know who she picks because the demographics have drastically shifted. Let's talk about it. But anyway, let's go ahead and get started off. So this was the episode that was hyped up the most. When we last left off, you know, it was all about this was going to be the big confrontation between Lee and Kenny. Like, these two have been getting into it. We knew there was going to be a 2-on-1 date. They had definitely alluded to things. And as I said, you know, they did all that, you know, Bachelor producer editing. So there was definitely some misdirection given, but it was pretty much all about Lee and Kenny. And I mean, I'm not gonna lie, as in the words of Joy, the show gets a big fuck you for this one. I would have to say.
Yeah, thank you. First of all, welcome to the club.
No, I've said fuck you to the show before. I've been watching way longer than you. This is not my first fuck you.
Right. But this is the first major fuck you for at least as we've been recording. I don't doubt you've said fuck you prior, and I'm positive when the Bachelor and Bachelorette leads were not black, you probably said fuck you many a times. But
yes,
this is the first time we've done it here, so this is a milestone. So we should definitely just take a moment to like treasure it. But it was a waste of my time. That whole episode 5 was a waste of my time. Nothing, literally, it pretty much focused on the Lee and Kenny debacle, which shouldn't have been a debacle in the first place, because Rachel was really going through it and trying to determine who she can believe. And I'm like, Lee's haircut should tell you enough that he should not be trusted.
But you know what's true? What's not true, I think they played up her indecision, because when it came to cases and when she finally had to make the actual decision, it did not seem like it took that much for her to figure shit out. The only thing I think she may have done, because you have to remember, they pull these folks aside and like talk to them in between things and say, you know, so what are you going to do next? Or what are you going to say? Or what would you say to this? You know what I mean? So, I mean, look, Unreal already beat The Bachelorette and The Bachelor for having a black contestant lead. And I hate to say, I really do feel like they're ripping storylines out of the show, because I don't think that they could have not known that Lee was a racist, because they interview the fuck out of these guys. They drug test them. They ask them all kinds of questions about their character, their love life, everything. Like, it's not a quick casting process. You don't just show up, look cute, and make it on the show. I really do believe they put him on there for none other than to be like, let's make The Bachelor great again on the show and see what shit can ensue. Like, that's just me, because it's good television for him.
I would argue, and this is coming straight from her Twitter account, because she live tweeted the episode.
Yes, she did.
When he was gone. This is episode 6 we're talking about, when Lee does not get the rose, obviously. She said, quote, "I may not see everything and I may do things on my own time, but I keep my grass cut low so the snakes will show. Hashtag by Lee, hashtag the Bachelorette." How I read that was that I agree with you that she probably got a lot of behind the scenes information, but realistically, I really do think that she's that indecisive sometimes. Like,
really?
I feel like sometimes it takes her a little longer to process things more. I think there's some things that are obvious gut reaction, like DeMario. But I think, or even Will, which we'll get into a little later. But I think with this one, because she was getting 2 different versions of the story, it took her longer than I anticipated for her to figure out Lee was a snake.
And see, for me, I just took that as she just went into prosecutor mode and wanted to pull the truth out. And so she just starts asking questions and says, hey, look, I'm going to just lawyer this shit and then figure it out.
Right.
But I do also still think that she had her gut instinct on where to go.
Right, no, and I agree with that. I do think, though, and this is when it comes to being on a national stage, like, prosecutor mode does not, the optics of it doesn't look great. It just looks like you're holding out a little longer than you need to be. But I understand where you're coming from. And if that's her personality, like, whatever, more power to you. But optics-wise, it just looked like, girl, like, it's very clear that he's lying. But, hey, we're viewing it from another lens.
Yeah. So Lee goes, and then they leave him on that island. The Bachelor loves leaving people on islands or like desert places or like.
Sure, and I'm glad he got left on the island. Side note, we forgot to mention someone else left the house in episode 5.
Oh yeah. Who was it? Jack Stone. Yes. Creeper face. Girl, there were so many pictures of that fool on the screen just looking creepy with this like...
So, listen, Jack Stone, if you guys don't know this, we actually write notes ahead of time before we do these episodes. And Jack Stone was so unforgettable that I didn't realize that he got sent off the show until I was looking through Rachel's tweets to read that tweet I just read. Completely forgot he existed. We did not have him on our list of people to talk about.
No.
But he had that solo date and it went bad.
Yeah, and he was creeper. And then he was so like, oh, Rachel, I love you. Like, just so over the top. And every time he would say more, you were just like, step away from the affection, Lee. Step away from the affection, Jack. It's not coming back to you. It's not coming back. Like, don't bring it out there, bro. Just stop.
What's funny about him is that when she said, I think I can see myself falling for you, she did like the white man blinking gif. Like, she was just like, what?
Yeah.
How? This is what?
Yeah.
I'm confused. So he obviously didn't get it because he was super lame. He was trying to impress her but couldn't dance. He was dry as fuck. Like, Jack had to go. He had to go. I'm surprised he made it that long, to be honest.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, look, I'll be the first one to say that I get it why people maybe don't. Actually, no, I don't. I got no excuses for it. He was just creepy and too much love and too much affection, and I had no sympathy for it. None.
Sure.
None whatsoever.
So I don't know if you want to just kind of go through all the men that left the house, or do you want to go in the order of the episodes?
Let's do this. Let's go in the order of the episodes because, like, look, Rachel like put lay waste to the field.
She genuinely got rid of probably 6 men left the house in the span of 2 episodes.
Yeah, because it was Jack. Lethal.
We'll go down through the list. So Jack was either Jack or Lee was first, but Lee and Jack went home. Lee left, and it felt like a tiny slice of reparations, just a tiny slice.
Very small.
The problem is that Kenny should.
Did we ever see a Lee and Rachel kiss? No, right?
No. I don't think they ever
did. Because that's like, oh no, I'm pretty sure they probably did. That little skeevy fucker did it. But right. I think that the Bachelor...
never on camera. No, I've never seen it. Then poor Kenny had a psychotic breakdown, was doing that maniacal Mojo Jojo laugh. And then he came back to tell Lee, yo, fuck you, I won. And Rachel was looking in the helicopter like, sir, get back in the helicopter. It's not that serious. So he had a psychotic break. And you know what? I'm not mad at you because if I'm feeling victorious, I'm going to talk my shit. But at the same token, just get on the plane. Like, just get on the helicopter.
Yeah,
bro.
Just get on the plane. Talk your shit at the. They're gonna see each other again at the Men Tell All episode.
Sure.
So, like, this is the other kicker. Like, we're getting down towards the nitty gritty, and there'll be some, in my opinion, cool moments towards the end. But just so you know, the beginning first episodes before it gets down to like the final 4 is what I enjoy. Like, once it gets down to hometown dates, that's like the last time I really am like invested in the show, because after that it's just who does she pick and then who's going to be the next Bachelor, and I can get that from Twitter. So you know what I mean? Like, it's not as much. But the Men Tell All or the Women Tell All, where they bring all the contestants back and they all get on stage and tell and talk their shit. Oh, girl. Oh, it's so good. Like, Kenny and Lee are going to have their whole, like, 20 minutes talking to each other. There's going to be a whole thing about DeMario. There's going to be a whole thing about everything. Like, every single major storyline will get rehashed even more. And it's even better because all the other men are around there to, like, lie or say that the person is telling the truth and just, like, spit it the way it is. It's going to be great.
Yeah, no, it's, it's going to be interesting. Like, I think we all have our predictions of who are going to be the top 3 or 4 folks, and we'll kind of get into it because to Jack's point, like, she spared no stone unturned.
Yeah,
everybody got the headshot. Like, she did not care. So going into episode 6, because that's pretty much it. Like, they built up this Lee and Kenny squabble.
Thing.
So we can move past that. Like, it was anticlimactic. Lee got the boot as he should. Kenny got the rose as he should. Jack Stone in the middle of that, like, got left to, which he should.
Yeah, and I will say she's quicker on the solo date to let folks go. Solo dates don't necessarily end in not a rose. It happens, but not as much as you would think.
This is probably, I think in total, if I'm counting correctly, she's done 3 solo dates that have had no rose.
Yeah, I think so.
So Jack, Fred, and we'll get into the third person later. So we get into the second part. They're doing a lot of country hopping within Europe, and we get into episode 6. Kenny's feeling victorious. Everybody's having a good old time. The first solo date goes to Eric.
Yep.
Eric.
And they had a... Yeah, go ahead.
Was it Eric? No, Brian. Didn't Brian get a solo date too?
I can't remember, girl. Like, yeah, I think so. I think so.
Brian got a solo date.
Yes, he did get a solo date, yes.
Which, let me tell you something. I know you like Brian. Brian gets on my damn nerves. Brian got too much airtime.
Much better, though, this time.
He was, but he got a lot of airtime that episode. Like, a ton of lonely, like, one-on-one time, solo date time with Rachel, which I know what they're doing, but, like, man, I don't care. Me, personally, do not care for it.
Yeah, well, look. This is what I would say. I think it also has to do with the fact that since she's sending people home so early, the show is being conducted quickly, and they're just having to fill time.
Right. No, which is super fair, too. Because she is, like, to your point, she's letting the chopper spray. Like, she does not care. So, I'm fine with that, but I was just like, it irked me. But we'll move on. So, obviously, he got a rose. That man is still in the house. Eric got his solo date, which was much, much, much better improvement. He has really worked on opening himself up, and I was surprised by Eric. Something about him, I don't trust him. Like, he just reminds me of dudes that you would have a crush on in college, but they would cheat on you on the side. Like, that's his
with like friends,
right?
Friends,
right?
Yours, yeah,
but, yeah, like with your roommate. Like, that's the vibe Eric has always given me. But I could be wrong, but I'm probably right. So so he got the rose. Yay for Eric. Whatever. We now get into the Viking game, which we've talked about this in earlier episodes. Kenny is not very good at the competitions. That's not his thing. He either comes in second place or he comes in dead last, but he never gets the W. So now he's trying to, off the back of reparations, he is trying to refuel himself and win the heart of Rachel, right? So they go full Viking in a ring. They got the clothes on, which even in Viking gear, Peter looked good. Okay, he looked great. But then they get into the circle ring, they do competition, and we've been alluding to it this whole season. But he actually cuts his eye with a shield in the competition game, and Adam also cuts his eye with the same shield. So that's where the bleeding came from. It was very minor. Yeah. It was just a scare.
But they do that all the time.
Right, they do that all the time.
They always do that. They always cut to like, oh, did this person hit someone? Meanwhile, in the history of The Bachelor, I think like there's maybe been like a couple shoves and that's it. Sure. Like this is not. I'm
gonna have to give my patented fuck you though to ABC because they made it seem like he got punched because of racism, and I don't appreciate that. I don't appreciate.
And one thing I will say that I don't know. The one thing I will say about this whole situation is I've watched it long enough to where, like, if it's cut like that in a promo, I just know it's not fake. Like, I know it's fake. I know it's not real. Like, there's no way.
Right. And that's the thing. Like, I didn't think it was real, but even that you're trying to allude to it for the people who don't understand editing, that's a fuck you. Like, I just can't. I can't get jiggy with that. That's just me in my opinion. But what do I know? I just have a podcast. So we then move on to he wins the competition. Yay, whoop de whoop to you. Does he win solo time as a result of that? I can't remember.
I mean, I think he just got solo time for like the whole
just because of the win.
I don't think it was like
he won it. Right.
Yeah.
So we get to the root of the issue, which is that Kenny has a lovely daughter. She's so beautiful. He loves his kid. Every time he talks to her, he misses her dearly. He's a single dad. And he and Rachel have a sit in the powwow, and he was like, I miss my family. I miss my daughter. I've been out here so long, but I still want to develop a relationship with you. And they come to a mutual agreement that he should leave the show to be with his daughter. So Kenny leaves.
Yeah. And I'm okay with him leaving. Like, if he wants to go, go. Like, and there's actually, that's happened a lot with moms and dads on the show.
Sure.
Like, either the Bachelor says to them, hey, you know, if by chance you are not, if I at any point, I remember a couple of Bachelors saying this to moms or Bachelorettes saying it to guys that have kids. If at any point in this situation I feel like you don't need to be here because of what you're being away from, I will send you back. And it's always like this really cool, cute moment. It always makes everyone think the show is like 4 weeks. Like, the kid is not going to be like growing up and going to college during the span of the show.
But let me tell you, Kenny loved his child. Do you hear me?
True.
My man was crying. Every time he talked to her on FaceTime, he was just so happy to see her. So he needed to go. And I understand. I'm hurt because that kills my top 3. Other things got killed because of my top 3 in this one whole episode. But Kenny left. Before that, we forgot that most important thing. The first rose ceremony of episode 6. We lose 2 black dudes.
Yep. But they both needed to go.
So here's where I agree and disagree. They both needed to go. Absolutely. They did not need to go before Adam and Matt, who was still in the house.
Look, Adam and Matt must have put some dick down behind scenes. They must have told her about some investment portfolio because she is steady with them, dude.
I do not argue with you. Let me tell you, Josiah came out looking like a real asshole at the end of this episode. Like a real, like he fully...
A natural asshole,
to get nerdy, he went on his Frieza's, this is my final form. Like, that is what he turned into. His final form was a complete dick. And so he's gone, and he should have gone. And I didn't have a beef with Anthony, but Anthony was just kind of there. But at least he had more presence to me than Adam and Matt. Like, his friendship, his little bromance with Eric, I dug it. I love that they had a friendship, and like I love their interactions with each other and talking to each other. Had a little black male love. I liked that. That was more interesting to me than Adam and Matt. Adam and Matt, the most they spoke. This is the most I've ever heard Adam speak in his little, talking heads at episode 6. I never heard his voice prior to that.
Yeah, I mean.
And every time she kept saying that these are the men that are in the house or could be my future husband, I'm like, in what capacity? So is your future husband? I'm so genuinely, Jack, don't laugh. I was so confused. Like, how is this your future husband? We don't know who he is.
Look. You never know. She could end up with one of them. One of them could be like down to the final 3. I don't know, but I'm just still confused why they're there.
I don't think so, but like to your point, it could happen. But anyway, they, R.I.P. pour one out to Josiah and really more Anthony. Fuck Josiah, he was an asshole.
And showed his ass on the way out as well as every moment that he was in after episode 1. And he just honestly, and to his point, on paper, him and Rachel fit. So I get why he was maybe a little bit braggadocious. Does not excuse his behavior though. Because on paper they fit. They're both lawyers. They both come from a certain type of family. Like, I get it. Like, I get why he felt like naturally she should be mine.
When she tweeted about his cockiness, like there's a fine line between cockiness and confidence. She definitely tweeted that.
Yeah.
So she was throwing shots. Listen, Rachel was sparing no expense. So
this is the thing, though, too. Rachel's Twitter, I feel, is a much better representation of Rachel than anything on the television show. I agree. Like, she keeps it so 100 on her Twitter.
I like her a lot more on Twitter than I do on this show. Genuinely, yes. So I agree wholeheartedly. So we're breezing through this because there wasn't much meat on these episodes. It was just a lot of bullshit. So
I mean, that's the thing. But it was well hyped. I know they got good ratings. Like, I know they did.
Absolutely. But yeah, we're breezing through this more than usual because there's not really much to talk about. But yeah, no. Fuck Josiah. Anthony, I know you called him Skip. I didn't have a problem with him. I could have seen him. I would have been fine with him staying on. Here's where we get to the
staying on and being bored. Like, no, let's talk about this seriously. Talk about Lee. Talk about these other guys. But this is the thing where I will go ahead and keep it 100. Anthony, to me, is almost worse than Matt and Adam, because we have seen things from him, but he still operates under the level of there has been no evidence as to why you are still here. At least with Adam and Matt, you're like, we haven't really seen anything with you, so maybe there's something we haven't seen that says, hey, this is why this dude is still around. We have seen a lot of Anthony, and all we have seen is boring. Like, I'm sorry, to me, I was like, you've got to go, bruh. Like, he did, said, and acted nothing like a man who was trying to win anyone's affection. And every second that he was with Rachel, I was just thinking about, can I get a sandwich?
So I would say he was a little meh, like he was a little blah for me. But I don't think overall Anthony was a bad guy.
Not bad guy, just boring. Like,
no, right. But then again, also, like, and this is just me, like, my experience. If I'm on camera going on a date with a dude, right, I don't think I'm gonna be my best self. Now, Anthony could genuinely just be this boring and just be like, hey, this is what I go off of. That's fine. And if that's who he is, that's who he is. I know for me, if I'm in awkward situations where I feel like a lot of pressure, I'm not at my funniest. Like, I'm funnier on Twitter, and you gotta catch me being comfortable in person, but just like a general meet and greet, I'm kind of bland. And I know that about myself, right? So, like, when it comes to first dates, I'm very bland. That's just me.
And I get it. But, yeah.
No, but I get it. For the nature of the show, I see what you're saying. Like, I don't think you're wrong. For the nature of it's a competition at the end of the day. This is a public competition. Yes, he was not giving his best. But if it's just like on a solo one-on-one date and there was no cameras, I think that he would have been more than fine.
Okay.
Which I think it's a fair assessment. So Eric had a solo date. Whoop-de-whoop. Okay, great. We now get into Will. So
Will is the epitome of the Tyra Banks meme. We were rooting for you. We were all rooting for you. Cause
so my man Will, let me tell you how stupid Will is. Because Will could have said nothing or lied, and he did not. Yeah. And I'm not saying he should have, and he would have been wrong to have. But I'm just saying, for the sake of the game, you could have lied. That's all I'm saying. So he goes on his solo date. Rachel keeps saying, you know what, the romance not there. He's just only holding my hand because she's used to getting slobbered down with loud kisses by Brian. And so she's looking for that romance and that spark. And Will's not giving it to her. So she's trying to dig into Will's personality. Like, hey, Will, what do you like? What are you interested in? You know, who have you dated in the past? Will comes and being like, well, to be honest, I've only really dated white women prior to this. And Rachel gave the white man blinking gif. She also did the conceited, screwed up the lips gif. And shook her head. And was like, He was like, you know. So then he started going into the explanation, like giving you broader context.
Yeah, he should have never gone down that hole. And the explanation in no way helped him.
No, it did not. Because he goes to explain, like, you know, the environment I was in, my education. And she was like, well, that's funny. Because we have a pretty much similar background in terms of how we were raised. But I mostly have dated black men. And now you can see Will visibly have egg on his face. Because now he can't talk his way out of this, right?
Yeah.
And so, here's the thing. I had a conversation with a coworker of mine who watched the show. And she felt that Rachel was hypocritical because she has mostly white men in the house currently. So to judge Will for mostly dating white men to her was hypocritical. What say you?
Okay, so I don't think it's hypocritical because I don't personally think she dated mostly white men. I just don't.
I don't either. I agree.
I don't. But this is the deal with Will. The way Will said it is he didn't say it the way I have said it, because I will tell you, if you stack up my numbers, it's not white men necessarily as far as boyfriends, but there's definitely more of an array of boyfriends. You know what I mean? And I would say
so from what I'm hearing you say, you're saying that you have more white and non-black people of color.
Yes, okay. That I have dated. Yes, definitely, for sure. And for me, when I say that, it's like I've had 2 serious boyfriends who are black, but I've had like 5 serious boyfriends of other races. And yeah, that number doesn't necessarily reflect my taste, but it also reflects a certain thing about my taste, which is that I really do say this. I am about way much more than the looks, because it's for me a lot more about feel and thought and vibe. And if a white man is down with my level of chill, then that's the guy. If it's a brother, it's a brother. It's more about that, because I would say that I get hit on way more by brothers, and I could definitely go that way. But I'm like, look, dude, you're all ESPN and WWE. Me and you are not going to be meeting on a common ground after date one. You know what I mean? So that's just where I am as far as what I look at. So I don't really think it's a bad thing for you to say that the way Will says it. And he's just like, well, I'm just kind of surprised that you were a sister I wanted to date. Like, I was just like, what the fuck, dude? Like, it was almost
he didn't set this up well. So I'll say this. And based on my dating history, I've only exclusively dated black men. And I've never had a serious boyfriend, but I've gone on dates with primarily black men. Except in high school, I did date a Latino man, but I kind of don't count high school, because high school, you are not grown. Like, girl, yes, you don't have a job. You don't even have a degree.
There's no stayovers at houses.
No, a whole exactly. Thing. It's a whole other thing. So, as an adult, grown adult, I've only exclusively dated black men. That is what I have a personal preference on. My parents have been married for 26 years. I have been and lived in an environment where black love was something that was important to us. And realistically, because of the kind of the stress of being a black woman on life, I don't want to be a teacher on top of that too. And not to say that all white men need to be taught, but I'm just saying that the stack, the probability, it's pretty fucking high.
The education is there, but then I'm gonna flip it on you. I've dated black men that are not about my nerd shit, and that level of education is there as well. Like, they don't get why I have to dress up.
And I think it depends on what you're fine with educating, right? So if it's talking about nerd shit, I probably have more patience to do that, right? If they're talking about like basic things like white privilege and racism, I don't know if I myself personally, and this is just me, Joy talking, I don't think I have the patience for that. Now, I am open to dating people of all ethnicities. I have a preference more towards black and non-black people of color. That's just how it pans out. How it's rolled out to be is I've only exclusively dated black men. Now, so me and my coworker were talking about this. She does not believe that Rachel has mostly dated black men. I was like, no, but she's a Delta from the South. I feel as though I believe her. I do
too.
I do believe
especially
her.
when you look at her Instagram and see her friends and see
if you see her friends, if you see her Instagram, if you see how she talks that talk on Twitter, I was like, now again, it goes about this. If I could describe these two episodes, if I could name this whole episode that we're doing of this podcast, I would call it the episode of Optics. Because Optics does say that she did, the first time we saw her on public television, was trying to vie for the attention of a white man. And Optics does say that all the men that are in the house are white and white adjacent. So, except for Eric, left in the house. Out of the 6, 5 out of 6 are not black. So,
but then you leave out a whole bunch of qualities, which is that, unfortunately, the brothers are the ones that have fucked up the most. Don't get me wrong. Lee still holds the championship of, like, fucked up in this. But a lot of the brothers were doing shit where you just like, come on, son.
So I wouldn't necessarily say that versus the other. I would say this. I think we forget what the demo was when it was 31 men in the house. There were more white men in that house than there were combined black and non-black people of color. So based on statistics, like if you're looking at like the breakdown,
but for Bachelor statistics, she's batting 1,000 because there's usually total 4 or 5. So the fact that she was up like, so, maybe 60, 40, 45, 55, she's doing great. Like, I know what you're saying, but like, this is the Bachelor. Like, they're not putting that many up.
No. But what I'm saying is that like, if you're looking at it as just like, well, is only one black dude is there? It's like, well, if you look at how many white dudes left. Like, there were more white men that have left the house than there were black men that left the house.
There are more white men, but what I'm saying is, like, look at the white men that have left the house. They've left the house for being boring, no chemistry. We've had brothers, like, really fucking up. Like, doing shit that gives you a justifiable reason to go home.
What?
No, yes.
No, because
Demario.
No,
I would say we've had more instances, even if it is 2 or 3.
Yeah, I was gonna say 2 or 3, because like Diggy didn't do nothing wrong.
No, Diggy didn't do nothing wrong.
Kenny didn't do nothing wrong.
Himself out.
Like, Anthony did, like, just, even though he was boring, like, Anthony did not do anything wrong. Like,
no, he didn't. But think about it in the grand scale of things. Outside of Lee, who is really fucked up?
Outside, Waboom was annoying. Brian was annoying. Was it Brian or Bryce? What was the one he was arguing with? He was terrible.
They were but I'm talking to Rachel. Like, to Rachel, done overt things to show them that she's like, nah, son. It's been for the guys to electively get themselves out. I'm not saying one way or the other. I'm just saying brothers have fucked up more, in my opinion, just optically. Like, in my opinion, the white boys are keeping their head down and being boring and maybe like being something.
But do you also think that that's like the optics of how they've edited the show too? Because like with Josiah, with Josiah, for example, like he definitely was being arrogant. But we never saw that arrogance directed toward Rachel per se.
No, but we did see all of his, let me talk about me and how I feel about you.
No. I definitely agree with you. But we saw that, like, the episode that he left. But prior to that, she was definitely feeling Josiah. We saw that more of that arrogance in his talking heads. Absolutely. I'm not disagreeing with you on that. Him drinking from the stupid-ass spelling bee trophy like Jay-Z with the Douce at the Grammys. Like, he was doing some dumb shit. But those were really, you're only seeing those in the talking heads. You only saw it one time with Rachel. So I can't quantify, unless some stuff happened behind the scenes, that he was necessarily fucking up with her. So that's what I'm saying with the broader scheme. Like, Will, yes, I agree with you. Like, 150%, dog, what were you doing, right? But other than, like, really Will, and if you want to count Josiah, sure. Everyone else left because of they didn't get enough time with her, which was a lot like Diggy's case. They did get time with her. They weren't that very interesting, which was like Anthony's case. Kenny left on his own volition, so he didn't even get the boot. Fred was just sad. Like, Fred just lost. It wasn't that he was, like, mean to her or terrible to her. He definitely just was like, she was like, I can't get past you being somebody I knew from the 4th grade. That was more her hang up than his hang up. So there was a lot there. I think that I hear what you're saying. I understand where you're coming from, but I do think, like, optically, if you look at the full group of dudes, there were a lot more dudes who were doing fine and they just didn't gel, as opposed to them fucking up. Really, the ones who are strongly fucking up was DeMario, and then after that would be Will.
No, you're right.
Yeah. But so I'm just like trying to put it into my perspective on how I view it. But I hear your point.
Yeah. All right. So I hate to say this, but I got to wrap this up because I got to go to my thing.
Okay.
So basically, let's go ahead and just we'll cut this down, but they have the Viking thing and they have like the Viking fight, right? Like where this is where they cut in the fact that, you know, Kenny was bleeding even though he really wasn't.
Which we already talked to, so we don't have to go over it, but Kenny left on his own volition. We're now down to the end. So Will fucked up, didn't get the rose. Rachel was like, bye boy. Then we get to the final rose ceremony, right? Alex gets the boot over Matt and Adam. And
everyone on Twitter, and including me, was like, what the fuck? Because Alex, like, I don't even understand how you kick Alex out. Seriously, though, like, I'm sorry, like, I'm barely going to make my thing. So let's just go ahead and cut to our top picks. So I'll say one more thing on Alex, and we'll go to our top picks, okay?
Yeah.
All right. So I'm not even going to, like, dignify this with much conversation. She's a fool for getting rid of Alex over those two losers, and Twitter agrees with me. So both of our top threes are kind of fucked up. So I'll go ahead and say, mine, I had Alex. He's gone. Basically, like, with the guys that are left, I have to put Peter, who is somebody who I don't necessarily feel, but I do feel like Rachel feels, in my, like, book. And I've got a hope for Eric because keep Black hope alive. Like, I have to. Like, I really do. And I also think, like, you know, I do feel like, I know you don't stand for him, but I do feel Brian has done enough to where I'm like, okay, I don't hate you. Or I'm, like, okay with you sticking around. So those are my top three. And they are so weak. Like, I'm not even, like, that happy about it.
So out of the top three I've had since the beginning, the only one still left is Peter. So I'm right. Peter, we riding to the top, my bruh. Like, that's all we got left. I'll add Eric there, and then fuck everybody else. I'm adding nobody else from the group. Fuck everyone else. I got a top two, Peter and Eric.
Yeah, I gotta agree. Well, you know what? This was a long episode of Bachelordom, but it was a short episode for us because there was not a lot that happened, and it was kind of bullshit. Like, I'd have to rate this episode very low. But we still have hometown dates. We still have a whole bunch of things to happen. So we'll see where it goes from there. But I'm Jacqueline. You guys can follow me at Twitter at that Jacqueline. Joy, where can folks find you?
Jump for Joy, at Jump for Joy on Twitter and other social media channels. We both write and podcast for Black, and produce for Black Girl Nerds. We cut the fat on this episode, just like Rachel cut the fat of all the men on the show.
Yep.
So we went through this very quick because we actually have lives and it's 4th of July weekend. But we want to make sure that we did this before we get back from vacation. So thank you guys for hanging out with us.
You're going to Cuba.
I'm going to Cuba. I'm going
to watch a movie.
Well, yes, I'm going to Cuba. So listen, guys, thank you for hanging out with us. Follow us at the Blacklorette. We live tweet every week. I don't think they're having an episode this Monday. I hope not, because 4th of July weekend. So we'll be back in 2 weeks with the newer episodes of the podcast, as well as live tweeting the new episodes of Live of The Bachelorette. So until next time.
Thanks, guys. Bye.
That was a HeadGum podcast.